the Only MMA Show, an MMA podcast available on YouTube and Spotify and hosted by MMA content creator Colton Only. Okay, now we're recording. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 4. This episode will feature Yann Oliveira. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you give a brief description, like age, record, weight class for the people watching?
Yes, sir. My name is Yann Oliveira. I am 36 years old. I'm the CombatFC welterweight and middleweight champion of the world. So 170 and 185 class.
Okay. So you're two division champion.
That's right. That's right. Two division champion currently.
Okay, and your last fight was September of last year, correct?
Yes, sir. Last fight was September last year against Chris Foster.
Okay, yes, I was actually at that fight, so we may talk about that a little bit. But first question I have for you is, how did you get into MMA? When did you start training?
Yeah, so funny story. I got into MMA when I was a lot younger. I was in high school. I had a friend of mine that actually invited me to come to a training class because his cousin used to fight, and he was all over me about coming to train because he watched me get into a fight in school one time. And he was like, "Man, you really can fight." And he was like, "I didn't know you could fight like that." It was literally right after I got into a school fight. And he said that to me. He was like, "Man, I didn't know you could fight like that." And I looked at him. I was like, "Honestly, me either. I didn't know I could fight like that either." It was probably one of the best fights I've had. And then he was all over me about trying MMA because his cousin did it, and he thought I would be really good. And for the longest time, I'm like, "Nah, I'm not doing that. That's kind of crazy." I'm not gonna go do no MMA. But then I agreed to go try a class and give it a shot. And it was all up from there. I loved it. I fell in love with it, and I just stuck with it.
Okay, and what did you start training one martial art, or did you jump right into MMA?
Pretty much jumped right in. I started with Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then just started doing MMA classes altogether. I just dove in.
Yeah. I think that those are the two best martial arts that you can have. Muay Thai just covers pretty much everything that you need to know for the striking department. And then Jiu Jitsu. I value Jiu Jitsu more than wrestling. What about you?
I agree with you. I agree with you. I feel like wrestling is an amazing base, right? Wrestling is a great base for anybody that wants to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But if you were to put the both of them in front of me and ask me which one would I pick, which one would I rather have my kids do, I would say Jiu-Jitsu every time, because most fights at some point they do end up in the ground. with
Yeah.
wrestling with wrestling once you get somebody to the ground, what do you really do from there? You just pin them, you just hold them. Sure, you can work some ground and pound, but if you're just a pure wrestler and you put them against a guy who's a jiu-jitsu fighter, chances are the jiu-jitsu fighter is gonna submit him. It'll break his arm, choke him out, or break something. So I would favor jiu-jitsu over wrestling myself.
Yeah, exactly. I think that wrestling is I view wrestling as a martial art to get the fight to the ground and keep it there, but jiu-jitsu is what you're actually doing once you hit the mat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. And when you started training MMA past that first class, was it just a hobby for you, or did you go from trying it out one time to saying, this is what I want to do?
No, it was just a hobby. In the beginning, I did it that first time, and I still remember the guy who I trained with, who ran the class that day, who was the coach. After the class, he came up to me. He was like, "Oh, so how long have you trained for?" And I looked at him. I was like, "I've never trained." I was like, "This is my first MMA class." And he was like, "Yeah, but you've done Muay Thai before for sure." He was like, "How?" And I'm like, "No, I've never done Muay Thai either." And he was like, "How did you learn how to kick like that? How can you kick like that then?" And I said, "Well, I'm Brazilian. I've been playing soccer my whole life." He was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." So he was kind of like, "You should keep coming." He was like, "You're really good." I was like, "That's your first time. You're really good. You should keep coming." And at first, I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? This would be fun to learn. It'll be, a cool hobby to have. It'll be something fun to know, to be able to defend myself in case I ever need it again, So at first it was just a hobby, but I fell in love with it pretty quickly.
Okay, and like how far in were you training? Was it 1 year, 2 years before you actually decided not only am I doing this as a hobby, but I want to be an MMA fighter?
Honestly, I had been training for just a few months, right? For I want to
Mhm.
say probably like 2 or 3 months. And the coach was like, "Hey, there's a fight coming up, and the kid who's supposed to fight, his name is Lucas Cruz. He was like, he was supposed to fight, but he's injured. He's not going to be able to fight. Would you be interested in fighting in his place? Take over his spot and filling in because you guys would the same weight." And that was only after like 3 months. And I was like, "All right, well, if you think I'm ready, screw it, I'll do it." You
Yeah,
know, so that's how it went.
and
So
then
after three
you,
months,
yep, and then you did win that fight, correct?
so that was a amateur fight. That was like a 2 round, 2 3 minute fight. I lost in decision that fight, but I will say it was the biggest bogus decision ever. I walked out of the cage looking exactly how I look right now, not a scratch. And the other guy walked out, with like messed up ribs. I think his ribs were broken, broken nose, bleeding, bruised. I mean, man, I pieced him up all fight long. But
Mhm.
back in the day, so this is well before your time, there was this league around here that you know, the owner of the league, he was a coach at a martial arts school, but he owned the company that we fought in. So he controlled all the judges, he controlled all the payments, and the kid I was fighting was his student. So after the fight, when they announced that he won by decision, I couldn't believe it. You should have seen the whole crowd. Everybody was booing. Some people threw stuff because everybody was like, "This is bogus." And I still remember this, that one of the judges, he was a very straight edge guy. He came up to me after the fight and he was like, "I will never judge for them again." He was like, "That was the biggest bull crap ever." He was like, "I had you winning that fight. There's no way he won that fight." He was like, and I even argued with the other two judges that gave the fight to the other guy because I just couldn't believe it. He was like, "But it's a money thing." So he was like, "I suggest you never fight for them again,
Mhm.
especially if you're going to fight somebody that's from their academy, because they're always going to give them the win when it goes to decision." And literally that's really what happened. I can tell you for sure I did not lose that fight. But it was an amateur fight. It was 2 3 minute rounds, and they gave it to him, in the end. So, and after that, I said I will never allow a fight to go to the judge's decision again. I was like, I will never make that mistake again. And if you look at my record, I've never let another fight go to decision after that.
Yeah, and
So
that's what I was about to ask you about. So obviously, you have a lot of finishes outside of that one fight that you just told me about. You've never gone a distance. How do you keep finishing these guys in 1 or 2 minutes? Any extreme training methods or something like that?
there's no extreme training methods really. I think the big difference is I have a different kind of power. I'm very naturally strong. I have that farm boy strength. I was born and raised in a farm in Brazil, so I hit hard. I have a lot of natural strength, and I think these guys, when I fight them and they feel my power, they're kind of like, "Holy shit, I've never felt this before." You know, so it's a little bit different, and I can tell it's different because I have trained with many people before. I've trained with guys who are a lot bigger than me and who fight at weight classes above me. And when they train with me, they're just like, "Dude, you're so freaking strong. I can't move you." Like when you hit me, it just hurts. Every time you touch me, everything hurts. So I know my power is a little bit different. And I know I have I know I have that power where I can finish a fight at any moment. So I think that's pretty much what happens once they feel my power. It's like they kind of like don't want to be hit again. They don't really want to be there anymore. So I think that's really what it is.
Okay, and like you said, you have natural power. You're just so strong. When you go into your fights, do you come out blazing because you know that all it takes is one hit, or do you still try to be technical, and if you land, then you land, but you're not just trying to land, you know?
Yeah, no. So I never go in just blazing at my opponent, just trying to land anything just because I know all it takes is one shot. No, I'm very calculated. What I say is I am the king of controlled violence. I'm a very violent man, but I keep it controlled and I unleash when I see the opportunity, but to be honest with you, I'm kind of sick of my fights, only lasting a minute or two. You know what I mean? Like I wanna fight a little bit longer. I want to have a good time. I want to enjoy it. So it's like I never really want to just go in there and finish the fight fast. I actually want to go in there and have a good time. I love it. I love fighting. I love when the kid shuts and I get to fight. To me, it's a good time. So it's never the plan to just go in and try to finish him quick. I want to have a nice fight. It just so happens that I typically will land pretty early or do something to finish the fight early.
Yeah, well that's awesome. So you're not even really obviously you want to win, but you want to enjoy it because you just love fighting. But you're so powerful that anytime you land, it's downhill for the opponent.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, and you had a very long layoff from I looked at your record earlier. I believe it was 2014 to 2023. Am I correct on that?
You are correct. Yep, that's
Okay.
right. I
And
took
why
a
why was that?
The reason was because in 2000, so I fought in 2014. It was December 13 of 2014. I fought Franklin Isabel. And that was actually the date of my birthday. And I won that fight in 13 seconds of the first round. So 13-13 in 2014. But in 2015, I had a daughter. So at the time, my daughter's mother was pregnant, and I knew I was having a kid. And once my daughter was born, I always worked a lot, and at the time, I worked for a really big company, and um, I worked essentially every day almost. I was working, from I left the house at like 6 in the morning. My shift didn't end till 6 p.m. I did 10-hour shifts, 10-hour days, but I always had to leave early because it was like 45 minutes to an hour away. Then it was about the same to drive back home at the end of the day. So it was one of those things that like the second I got home, I'd go to practice. By the time I got back home from practice, my daughter was already asleep. So it was one of those things that like I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be a father. I wanted to spend time with my family, and I still remember this at the time. My daughter's mother, she was like, yeah, and I'm so tired, because I'm with the baby all day and I'm waking up with the baby all night. It would be awesome to have you home more, to help me with her, but you're always gone. And I told her, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put the fighting thing on hold for now because honestly, that's really not paying the bills. It's not like I was making a ton of money. At the time, I think I was making like 1,000 a show, 1,000 a win, and maybe 15% in ticket sales, something like that. It wasn't much at all. Um, so I chose to be a dad. I chose to work and be a dad, instead of pursuing the MMA career. So that was the time for the layoff, and during that almost 10-year layoff, I was able to start my own business. I was able to grow my business and be at a point where I could take the time to train and also be a dad at the same time. And that's why in 2023, I decided it was time to come back. I had stopped in 2014 and I was undefeated in 2014, and I wanted to come back and see if I still got it, make
Mm,
another run at it. So
yeah.
that's the reason. That's the real raw reason why.
Okay, and when you came back, were your emotions different? Were you more nervous, more hyped because you'd been there before? Did the long layoff affect you?
No, not at all. I wasn't nervous at all. As a matter of fact, when I came back like hungrier than ever. I came back hungry. I came back ready to go. It was exciting to me because I missed it. I missed it so much. It had been so long, so I was dying to come back and fight again. So yeah, no, not at all. I wasn't nervous. I didn't, you know, I I was just excited to come back and do what I used to love to do.
Okay, and another thing that I want to ask you is what's the harder part of a fight? The actual fight, which I assume for you would not be because they usually last 2 minutes, or the lead up to the fight, the weight cut, any nerves, anything like that?
The hardest part about fighting is I would say it's the weight cut process and all the time that we spend training, because it's a lot of time. We're talking about, 2 to 3 training sessions a day. We're talking about many hours spent in the gym, time I could be spending with my family, uh, with my children. I'm spending training, so the hardest part would be that, honestly, with the weight cut. The weight cut is typically pretty tough, depending on what weight class I'm fighting at. I'm not worried about this weight cut at all. I'm barely gonna have to cut this weight cut, so I'm very excited about that. Um, so, but it's got to be the cut, I would say.
Okay, you said that you're excited for this weight cut. Does that mean that you have a fight scheduled?
Yeah, I got a fight scheduled right now. I am going to be fighting October 10th for Combat FC. I'm going up a weight class. I'm going up to the light heavyweight class. I'm going to be fighting Suleiman Amadia. I think it's how you say his name. I'm fighting him for the light heavyweight title. So winning that fight, I'll be the first MMA fighter in history to hold 3 world titles simultaneously in 3 different weight classes. Nobody has ever done it. So I'm in a position to be the first one to do it. So I'm very excited about that.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I hope that you get it done. And
Thank you.
another question that I have for you is obviously with a 7-0 perfect record, you're probably close to the UFC, which is really the most goal for almost anyone in the sport. One question I have is what is your ultimate goal? UFC championship, to retire with an undefeated record, just make it to the UFC? And how far away do you think you are from getting a UFC opportunity?
So my main goal when it comes down to my MMA career is to just make it to the UFC. I just want to go to the UFC because I know I can hang with a lot of those guys. I know I'll give a lot of trouble to a lot of guys in the UFC, especially in the right weight class. And I've almost got in a couple times. I've had a couple opportunities, and it didn't pan out. It didn't work out. I was about 2 months ago, I was offered a very, very short notice fight in the UFC with like a 40-pound weight cut. Um, and though I did say yes, I said yes to it. I said, let's do it. I'm down for it. I'll fight him. I think I had like less than 2 weeks to make it and about 40 pounds. My nutritionist was like, absolutely not, bro. We can't do that. But I said yes to the fight. But they didn't accept it in their end. Um, Sorry, there's a phone call coming in on my end here. There
Yeah.
you go. I think we should be. Can you see me now? Are we back?
Yes, we're back.
All right. There's a phone call coming in. Um, I accepted the fight, but they didn't accept it on their end, the opposition, which is fine. So back to the drawing boards and fighting at Combat FC, and with this win, there's no way the UFC can deny me. 3 division weight champ. I mean, they took RDR, who's around my age. He had 2 titles at one championship. I don't think he ever held them like simultaneously, but I know he won 2 world titles with them. I'm hoping that me holding 3 simultaneously will be a little bit more impressive than what he did, and maybe the UFC will give me a shot. We'll see. Um, but that's the ultimate goal. I don't even think about being a UFC champion. To be honest with you, I have so much more to go. I have a ton of room for improvements. So I'm not even thinking that far ahead. I'm just thinking I want to get in there, fight some of those guys, show them that I can belong, get the experience. And then if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, that's okay too. I'm not going to be disappointed. I've accomplished plenty in my life. I got a beautiful family, and I have a business. I have friends that love me, and so I'll be plenty happy with that.
Okay, so you want it, but you don't need it. Life's going pretty good. I hope that you do get it. If you are to win on October 10th, you're right. Undeniable 3 division champion, 8-0 record. And I hope that you get it, especially if you finish the guy like you've been finishing them. Last thing that I want to talk to you about is obviously you said before we started recording that you were in Paris right now. What are you doing down there?
Yeah, I'm in Paris right now. We're getting my brother Mauricio Hufi ready for his fight. He's fighting Benoit Saint Denis on Saturday. So I'm always with him for his fights. So we're finishing up camp. We just had a pretty good weight cut today. He started the weight cut today. We're gonna finish the rest tomorrow morning. So I'm just here to help him get ready. Support him, get him in the right mindset. And making sure I'm here for the team. We got Caio Borralho, who's also fighting Imavov in the main event. So we got 2 guys from the Fighting Nerds Academy. So I'm here for them. I'm here to help them, and especially being here for my brother Mauricio Hufi. So
Okay, so you're a fighting nerd. I did not know that.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you
So
guys are on a roll right now. All right,
yeah,
well,
we
that
are.
much covers everything. Is there any stories or anything else that you want to talk to me about before I end this?
Man, I don't really have any crazy stories. The only thing I want to say is I love seeing someone as young as you getting involved, and doing what you're doing. I think this is pretty cool, man. Joe Cav told me a ton about you before. He was like, "Man, we got this kid. He's a cool dude. We're gonna fly him out." As a matter of fact, I feel like my last fight, for some reason, I feel like you're the one that handed me my belt once I
I
won.
was. I was.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you're the one that put the belt on me, after I won that fight. So that's pretty cool, man. That's I love that you're this heavily involved. If MMA is something you really do love doing, if your plans is to be an MMA fighter one day and fight in the UFC, I don't know if that's what it is or not. If it is, I wish you all the luck. If there's one piece of advice that I can give you when it comes down to that, don't take long layoffs, man. Train hard, train as hard as you can, you know, eat good. And remember that practice is not only on scheduled days when you have to go in and practice with your team. You can be practicing at home by yourself. You can be doing cardio. There's a lot that you can do. So that's the message I try to pass, especially with someone as young as you. Really put your all into it, give your best. The real work happens when nobody is watching. And that's really true. And that's one thing I talk to my kid all the time. I have a 5-year-old little boy. He's about to be 6, not next week, but the following. And he's already doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's already doing wrestling, and he loves it. And he wants to be a fighter so bad. And I tell him, and I'm always like, man, I was like, if this is what you want to do, I'll support you. I'm all in with you. Let's do it. But you got to put the time in. And he is unbelievable. He wants to train all day, every day. There's not a single time where I can look at him and say, "Hey, you want to go training?" He'll say no. He has never said no. As a matter of fact, I come home from work. He's typically chasing me around the house saying, "Hey, Dad, can we go train? Can we go do some pad? Can we do some jujitsu? Can we do some wrestling? Can we go lift weights? I have a strength and conditioning gym at home." So he's very dedicated. This is what he wants to do. And what I explained to him is that even when I'm not around, he can be doing the right things. He can eat right. He can work out. He can go for a little run, lift some weights, train on his own. So that's the same message that best to you, man. You're doing a great job with what you're doing. I love your page. I think you do a very good job at covering us fighters. Keep doing that, and just keep putting in the work, brother. If you put in the work, then you cannot be denied.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the advice. That's great that your 5-year-old boy's that into it. And you're right. I do want to be an MMA fighter. My ultimate goal is to make it to the UFC, win at least a couple fights there, and just experience it. But until then, obviously, I want to take it further with this podcast. And thank you again for the advice. Before we go, I do want to say for anyone watching this, make sure that you follow the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, all of that. And I hope you all have a great day. And anything else that you would like to say before I end it for good?
That's it, brother. Just want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope to see you again soon. Hopefully, to see you at Combat FC again.
Absolutely. I hope to be there again. And thank you for coming on. All right. I'm going to end this thing.
All
Goodbye.
right,
Have a
brother.
great day.
You too.